Caputo-Pearl is the president of United Teachers Los Angeles. Thank you. Good morning. Welcome to Good Day LA.
Thanks for having me.
So you're sort of the main guy negotiating on behalf of the teachers. LA Mayor Eric Garcetti was on our show recently. He described the prospect of a strike. He used the word inevitable at this point, that the teachers are going to go out on strike pretty much no matter what next Thursday. Do you think a strike is inevitable?
We don't think it's inevitable. We're going back into negotiations. We invited the district to come to negotiations on Monday. That's going to happen. We're looking forward to that and hoping that we can reach an agreement. We are standing strong around issues that matter to parents and students and youth, and we are ready to strike if we have to. We had 98% of our members vote to authorize a strike, and we've got over 50,000 people came out into the street on December 15th. So we've got public support, but we're going back on Monday and hoping for the best.
So to break it down, because there's a lot of complicated issues here, but real simply, what is the biggest difference? What is the main sticking point right now?
There's several main sticking points, but I'll identify a couple of them for you. We've been frustrated that the superintendent is focused pretty much only on salary. This is about much more than salary. We need class size reduction. We've got some of the biggest class sizes in the state. We've got 80% of our schools without full-time nurses. And by the way, class size can sometimes be 45 or 50 students in a secondary class. We don't have enough counselors, librarians, psychologists for our students. We've got standardized testing that's crowding out music, the arts, and ethnic studies from the curriculum. Those are some of the real core issues.
You know, some of the district spokespeople, when you talk to them, would say, all those things are important to us. We just can't afford all of what the union wants. 90% of our funding comes from Sacramento. Why are you giving the problem with us when really Sacramento is the issue? What do you say to that?
Well, the money's clearly there to meet these demands. The district has a record-breaking $1.9 billion reserve that can be spent on these. That reserve has grown for the last 5 years. There's also over projections that they consistently do in their books and supplies account, which goes into a slush fund rather than into classrooms. And they've got $600 million per year, which is drained out of neighborhood public schools by the unregulated growth of charters, and that can be contained. So the money is there.
But isn't that rainy day fund there for a rainy day? And we've seen so many boom and bust cycles in our California politics, and that if a recession happens, that's why that's there.
It just doesn't pass. Of course, you need some reserve, but it doesn't pass the giggle test to have over 25% of your budget in reserve. When you've got needy students, 80% of our kids are low income. These students need the support that we're talking about. They need full-time nurses, counselors, class sizes of less than 50, et cetera.
So let's talk for a moment about what happened yesterday, which is the district now suing to have special education teachers stay on. What's your response to that?
I mean, it's a really disturbing pattern that Superintendent Austin Buettner, who has no education experience but comes out of corporate downsizing, they keep on throwing things at us to try to disrupt bargaining. So this is the latest of that effort. If they were really concerned about special education students, they would have agreed to our proposals that we put on the table 20 months ago to reduce special ed class sizes. So this is something that's going to get thrown out of court. It's a spurious lawsuit. It does not have merit. And unfortunately, it follows the pattern of him not sharing public records, trying to bargain in the media, and other things that are also disruptive.
It also, though, does raise the question of what happens to these kids. So on Thursday, what is your advice to parents? Do you think that if they take their kids to school, they are crossing the picket line?
So a couple of things on that, and I appreciate you raising this. I'm an LAUSD parent. I also taught for 22 years in South LA. Our advice to parents is this. Obviously, parents, based on their own circumstances, are going to make their own decision about whether they take their kids to school or keep their kids out of school. My kids will be with me on picket lines. I think it's a great learning experience, fighting for what we need. But what we really are asking of parents is join us to whatever extent you can. We've been overwhelmed by the positive response from parents fighting for things that they care about. So join us on the picket line in the morning and join us on the picket line in the afternoon. That's the best way to show a movement for educational justice, lower class sizes, counselors, nurses, et cetera.
But at the end of the day, what happens to all these kids? What happens to those special education kids that are not going to have help? What happens to the AP kids that are now going to be behind in their competition against other students? What happens for the kids?
I mean, I think the bigger question is, what has been happening for the last 10 years when there's been a disinvestment in public neighborhood schools and a move towards privatization. So we think that if there's a short period of disruption and convenience to fix 10 years of disinvestment, it's worth it.
All right. Well, we thank you for sharing your views. We appreciate that. We are going to hear from the other side of this negotiation. LAUSD Board Vice President Nick Melvoin will be here in studio with us in about 15 minutes. We hope you stay tuned for that. We're going to have a lot more coming up tonight on our political show. The issue is as well.